To try and make sense of this situation, I'm joined by Dr. Myong-hyun, a research fellow at the Asan Institute for Policy Studies. Dr. Go, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, as you saw in that report just now, when asked about the comments made by North Korea, President Trump said, "We'll see what happens." He also said afterwards that so far there's been no contact from Pyongyang about their threats to pull out from the deal. What I want to ask is, what should we make of the situation? Or put more simply, is the North Korea-US summit actually going to happen?
No, I think so far there's a high chance that the summit is going to be happening in Singapore in June 12th. But then I think what North Korea is doing right now is, again, holding the realization of the summit as a hostage, a bargaining chip, so that North Korea can take control of the agenda setting for the summit and impose its terms of the agreement on the United States. This is what's going on right now. And in that sense, I think this is a tug of war between the two sides to figure out what they want to be discussing and how they want to shape the final agreement after the summit.
So you mentioned briefly that the terms of the agreement. From what we're getting at the moment, there's some conflict about that. The North Korean Vice Foreign Minister, Kim Kye-gwan, railed against the notion that the US is looking to pursue the Libya model. To put it simply, that's complete denuclearization with all weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear weapons, biological, chemical, etc. The White House has said at the moment that there is no Libya model as such. And as you heard Sarah Sanders just say there, there's only the Trump model. The question is, what is the Trump model? It sounds catchy phrase, but what is it? And isn't it just the same thing as the Libya model?
Well, there's quite a bit of difference right now. I think what's going on between North Korea and the United States regarding the summit and regarding denuclearization is a methodology of denuclearization. We know from John Bolton, the National Security Advisor, what Libya model is. Libya model is essentially a unilateral denuclearization of a country, meaning the country, the nuclear state, actually offers up its nuclear capability for dismantlement first, and after dismantlement is complete, then the United States and the international community is going to reward the country with security guarantees or economic assistance. So this is a two-step model in which there's a unilateral denuclearization on the part of, in this case, North Korea first. What North Korea is saying is that they want to have a staggered approach. So essentially it's action for action, meaning if North Korea gives up a little bit of their nuclear capability, then the United States and the international community will be rewarding North Korea with certain measures, so be that a security guarantee or economic assistance. So what President Trump is trying to say here is that the Libyan model can only happen if the country surrenders or has a regime change. And that's clearly not the case in North Korea. So if you want to solve the denuclearization issue through dialogue, then only so much you can press North Korea with it. So in this sense, I think Trump is indicating that he's willing to compromise a little bit in this case by adopting a little bit of North Korea's staggered approach, meaning there will be some action for action. There will be some time lag in terms of North Korea's nuclear capability, dismantlement, but then it's going to be a compressed time frame, meaning North Korea will have to give up its nuclear capability at one point in the future, very near future, but then there's going to be some simultaneous give and like a give and take kind of a trade.
Well, that's what we think they're negotiating, but what's coming out of the White House right now in the form of John Bolton, Trump's national security advisor, is he's doubled down on his calls for CVID, which is complete, verifiable and irreversible denuclearization. This kind of talk alone, doesn't it just antagonize Pyongyang further? And doesn't it risk potentially the summit not happening?
Well, we're talking about North Korea and the United States. They don't trust each other clearly. So we have to, that's the baseline situation to begin with. So John Bolton, like Kim Jong-un, is driving a very hard bargain. And the fact that John Bolton is emphasizing CVID above everything else shows that that's what the baseline is for the United States. This is the minimum, bare minimum that the United States has to get from North Korea in order to claim the summit and the agreement with North Korea can be considered as successful. So this is something that John Bolton is making sure that that's basically the last thing that the United States is willing to compromise. So in that sense, I think that's what North Korea will have to give to the United States in order to make the summit a success.
Well, when we talk about the Libya model, there's the important point that the North Korean foreign minister said that the US demands are a sinister plot to topple the regime like in Libya and Iraq. Now, it perhaps reveals one of Pyongyang's biggest fears, which is regime collapse. if the US recently commented, I mean, the US recently commented on possible economic incentives, but there's been very little reassurance about regime survival. Could Pyongyang be angling for more assurances on this front?
Well, we know what kind of security guarantees North Korea wants concretely, and we know that North Korea has asked for signing a peace agreement, replacing the armistice agreement with a peace agreement between North Korea and the United States and North Korea and South Korea, in addition to some downscaling of the U.S. presence in the Korean Peninsula. But these are all, in a way, like a piece of paper. So we don't know whether this is going to be durable or sustainable. So there's no doubt that nuclear weapons, nuclear deterrence is the ultimate guarantee of region survival. So if North Korea keep mentioning the sad case of Libya and Iraq, I think it's a message from North Korea saying that they're not going to give up their nuclear weapons until the very end. Meaning, if North Korea itself is satisfied with whatever security guarantee that the United States and South Korea can offer to North Korea, and then North Korea evaluates it and is satisfied, they will give up nuclear weapons. So the fact that North Korea is mentioning Libya and the Iraq case is actually a signal that North Korea is going to hold on to its nuclear weapons until the very end.
I guess they're trying to play hardball for North Korea. I guess one of the collateral damage in the situation is perhaps the relationship between South Korea and North Korea. As we saw yesterday, the high-level talks were cancelled very last minute. I guess we could link it to what's happening in the US as well. Seoul will be considering now how to handle the situation. Wouldn't this be the time to use the hotline that President Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un has got ready for several weeks now?
So I think the first communication that should take place is between Seoul and Washington. I think President Moon should talk to President Trump about what the United States wants concretely from North Korea and whether United States is willing to be flexible about the process of denuclearization in North Korea. Then I think President Moon can use the hotline to relay that message to Kim Jong-un and sort of prepare Kim Jong-un's expectations before the summit in Singapore. So I think that's one potential use of the hotline at this moment. But if President Moon Jae-in calls up Kim Jong-un right now, and then it will look like President Moon is actually defending the North Korean position in front of the United States, and it might lead to some sort of speculation in Washington that South Korea might be too close to Pyongyang rather than Washington.
How important is South Korea's role right now as a mediator between North Korea and the US?
Well, it's definitely an important role. President Moon also has allowed Kim Jong-un to come out to the world stage. And in that sense, President Moon has a leverage over Pyongyang. I think it's actually a diminishing leverage, especially because Kim Jong-un is keep going to China and meeting with President Xi there. But I think President Moon still has this sense, at least a minimum sense of personal trust with Kim Jong-un, and definitely President Moon can relay messages to Kim Jong-un on behalf of Washington.
Seoul has said today that they will continue to try efforts to hold these high-level talks with Pyongyang that were cancelled yesterday. But the question is, when will it happen again? Because to be honest, for North Korea, surely there's no rush. They can wait, and Moon Jae-in administration will always be there if North Korea wants to talk.
Right. So it depends on what's going to happen between North Korea and the United States at this point. We know that we can have this high-level meeting tomorrow if North Korea picks up the phone today, and of course, if South Korean side says, we'll have the meeting tomorrow, then the meeting will happen. But what's going to be required first for the high-level meeting to resume is for the United States and North Korea to settle down this issue about the process of denuclearization. If North Korea feels assured to a certain extent that the denuclearization process that the United States is pursuing right now is somehow agreeable by North Korea, then we're going to have the high-level meeting.
Just in a few days' time, South Korea are going to have their own summit with the United States. When Presidents Trump and Moon meet, of course, North Korea is going to be one of the major topics that they're going to discuss about. What do you hope comes out of that meeting in regards to North Korea?
So it's clear that the South Korean government would like to see some sort of a more flexible attitude coming out of Washington regarding North Korea's denuclearization. I think President Moon is exactly going to, that message from President Moon to President Trump will be exactly that the United States will have to compromise a little bit in regarding denuclearization and be patient if President Trump wants to make the summit a successful event. So I think that's going to be the core message that President Moon is going to take to Washington. So And the outcome of the South Korea-US summit will depend on whether President Trump takes a message.
So that's next week. But also next week was scheduled the Punggye nuclear test site in North Korea that was going to be dismantled.
Yeah.
Now, they invited foreign journalists to come and witness the dismantling. But right now, it seems like we're not sure whether that's going to happen or not, especially with the relations between US and North Korea kind of on the rocks.
So, well, it could go either way. I mean, one way North Korea could use the scheduled shutdown of the Punggye test event, test site, is by actually carrying out the shutting down of the test site scheduled. It's one way to convey the message to the international community that North Korea is actually still committed to the idea of denuclearization, bringing peace to the Korean Peninsula. It's actually the United States that's being rigid and not flexible enough to negotiate with North Korea. So it's one way North Korea could use the scheduled event next week. But on the other hand, North Korea could postpone the closing event to convey the message that North Korea has the leverage to bring back the tension to the Korean Peninsula. So therefore, it's the United States' fault if such event actually unfolds. So it could go either way, in my view.
I guess the question everyone wants to know is, can North Korea be convinced to denuclearize at some point in the future?
Well, that's the million, I mean, actually a billion, like $1 trillion question at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I think it's actually a very difficult question, too, I think. I mean, we are not sure whether North Korea will ever give up nuclear weapons when everybody is convinced, not just North Korea, but everybody knows that it's the nuclear deterrence that protects the regime from the outside external threats. So will North Korea find any type of security guarantee or economic assistance sufficient to feel safe? We don't know. It's really up to the North Koreans to decide. And we can only tell that by looking at their actions. And if North Korea is, trending in that direction of a complete denuclearization, such as by accepting intrusive inspections and allowing and give up all the test sites and also as the other nuclear infrastructure, then we'll take that as a positive indicator that North Korea is willing to denuclearize. Until North Korea carries out such significant actions, I think we have to wait and see what North Korea is trying to do.
So briefly, just to wrap up, you do believe the US summit will happen with North Korea next month as scheduled?
I think both sides, North Korea and the United States, want to have this summit. It's a very important political event for both sides. And Kim Jong-un has wanted to have a one-to-one, face-to-face meeting with the U.S. president. It's actually a major objective for the regime ever since it was founded. So in that sense, I think Kim Jong-un knows it's a lifetime opportunity. Also, as for President Trump, I think President Trump understands that this is a very important opportunity politically and diplomatically. So I think there's a lot of momentum on both sides to have the meeting. But if they, either side overplays their hand, then the summit might not happen.
Well, that's all we'd have time for. Thank you for coming in today again,
awesome.
And thank you for your insights.
My pleasure.